What is going on, guys? Noah Brewer here with an exciting but different video. Today I'm going to be talking about my real estate journey and what led up to this point of me actually being able to purchase my first rental property, my first multifamily property. You know, my first step in really my real estate career and trying to get into that mixture of doing my own business on the side, just saving up money and then dumping it all in real estate. So super excited to be here to share this story with you. It's a good one, so you're going to want to stick to the end because there's some funny stories in between. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in e-commerce for about 2 years now, and I've basically just been growing e-commerce stores, and I've had a lot of success with, you know, doing Facebook ads, you know, a certain product research method that I've really capitalized on the past 2 years. So basically what I did with that money was I just, you know, at first I spent all of it, which was ridiculous. It was stupid, but I really started to save it and really value my future, you know, rather than just trying to make all this money and then just go blow it and buy fancy cars and you know, rent beautiful mansions and stuff. I really wanted to take this money and invest it for my future, because in reality, if I play my cards right, in 5 to 10 years, I could be making what I'm making now passively from real estate investments, you know, just people paying me rent. So I really wanted to take my money and go do something smart with it. And, you know, real estate was that answer for me. But, you know, I never had the right guidance. I never had a mentor. I never had somebody to tell me, you know, start here, do this, do that. So it all really started with buying my M4. And for those of you who don't know, it's a 2015 BMW M4. It's a cool car, great car, but it opened up a really big door for me that was almost life-changing. Now, this happened back in, I don't know, I'd say five or 6 months ago when I first got the car. I had a couple friends local to me that were also, you know, young entrepreneurs, and they wanted to meet up and see my new car and go for a ride in it, because, you know, they really love BMWs as well, which was great. So I said yes, let's go. Hooked up with them. While I was meeting with them, they invited me to go to a local meetup with like some other young hustlers out here in Connecticut, which was super weird to me because I thought I was one of the only ones out here that was, you know, starting businesses and stuff. But regardless, I went out there. I went to the meeting, and there were a few good guys. I mean, most of these people were just starting out, so, you know, I was a big inspiration to them. I was able to give them a bunch of good advice and tips, but I did meet one person there, and this one person really changed my life, and kind of he was able to act as that mentor to kind of tell me, here's what you want to do, start here. And, you know, I met him at that meeting per se because of my car. So that's why I wanted to start the story here. So basically what he did for me was we talked down. I told him, you know, how much money I had. I told him what my goals were, and we came up with this insane plan to just buy 6 properties this year. And this was like 6 months ago, so I was, you know, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know how much it costed to get into a property. I didn't know any of this information. So we were just like, here's the deal. We're gonna buy $2 million worth of real estate like this year, you know, whatever. It was crazy, but I was instantly hooked with this idea of like taking, you know, 20 grand and leveraging other people's money to control large amounts of real estate. So he handed me a book, and this is basically, actually, let me go get it right now. So he handed me this book, which is Rental Property Investing by Bigger Pockets, which is a great real estate podcast. And it basically runs you down the basics of real estate, you know, how rentals work. You know, it actually shows a different plan of how you can make $1 million in real estate just by saving up $1,000 a month and investing it. So really good book, but halfway through this book, look, you can see I'm still not done with it. Halfway through this book, I'm like, dude, we're going to buy a deal right now. So started hitting the pavement, and we started looking at properties. You know, I had the MLS pulled up because he was a real estate agent. Had the MLS pulled up. I think he picked out like 4 or 5 good rental properties in the area, and we went and just looked at them. And I really had no idea what I was looking for. Like, you walk into these properties, and I have no experience in real estate. I'm young. I've never owned a house. The most experience that I have with housing at this point is just renting out an apartment. So I'm really like trying to figure out, is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? I had no clue. So I actually knew, you know, at this time that I didn't know what I was doing. So I wanted to, you know, look for more guidance. So I started watching YouTube videos on renovations and, you know, home inspectors just talking about the type of stuff that they look at. And, you know, reading similar things to this where they talk about the basics of renovation and things to look out for when you're looking at properties. So I started really getting into that and started understanding like, okay, there's a wet spot up there. That means there's probably a leak on the roof. Okay, there's, you know, I can just think of a bunch of different little scenarios where I was learning, right? I was learning out there in the field, looking at properties, waking up early, going out there with my buddy. He would drive me around, and sometimes I would drive him around. But not only was it a good time, but this is the necessity. Like, if you want to get into real estate, this should be your first step, is pick up a basic book that'll give you like an overview understanding of how real estate works, and then just go out there and hit the pavement, right? Like, start talking to agents, go look at properties, talk to the sellers, talk to the tenants. But I think we looked at like 6 or 7 properties, and I'm really starting to get the hang of it. And, you know, I asked him to teach me how to run my numbers so I can look at, you know, how much money is it going to cost to get into the deal, and then how much money am I going to get back, you know, as profit, how to calculate the mortgage, expenses, you know, how to see like how much tenants are paying for rents. You know, basically just learning how to run a spreadsheet, right? Like, I would make these little spreadsheets, and I still do this because you know, I'm only talking about like a few months ago. I still do this where I run a spreadsheet, and maybe I'll show a picture of one right here. But basically it says like how much money that property could make or is making, how much it costs, how much it would be down, how much the mortgage payment is, how much it would be to outsource everything. You know, basically lays out everything for you so that you can see, you know, exactly like, okay, I'm spending $70,000 and I'm going to be profiting $700 a month. You know, just a kind of number like that. So I started getting into that, and once I started understanding, you know, or once I started doing this, I started understanding what's a good deal and what's a bad deal. The bad deals were, you know, in the ghetto, they needed a lot of work, the rents were low, they were kind of just like, you don't even want to go look at them, right? You can kind of look at the listing and tell, especially since I'm looking around the area where I live. A good deal, to me at least, was one that was already rented out with good long-term tenants paying decent rents. Like, they don't have to be super perfect, because not all landlords overcharge for rents, or not overcharge, but even get the market rate. I started putting together these like, okay, this is a good deal, this is a bad deal, this is a good deal, this is a bad deal, medium deal, whatever. And I would send them to my agent. It's like, hey, let's go look at these. So the first deal I found was kind of in the ghetto. It was an iffy building, right? It was a mixed use, which means it has residential buildings, but it also has a commercial unit, which means you could rent it out to a business if you really wanted to. But currently there was a residential there. So this was a property that I actually learned how to talk to lenders on. So basically I was trying to find a lender to, you know, give me the mortgage on this property. And because of my age, my credit history, you know, I mean, definitely not my income. That was never the problem. But there's so much more to it than just your income, and you learn that as you start talking to lenders. You know, the population is too small. You don't have enough credit history. You've never bought a house before. You know, every single person told me no. And I called about 30 lenders. I mean, just like sitting in my room, just ding, 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 you know, cold calling these people like, hey, like, what's your requirements? Can we run a pre-approval? Probably ran about 15, 20 pre-approvals. And I found one person that was willing to lend to me out of like 40. And I didn't end up using him because I didn't end up going for this deal at all. There were just too many things that didn't add up, and the sellers were actually being kind of assholes to me. So we didn't even submit an offer on that property, but I think I got the most value out of everything else just from, you know, dealing with that one property, because I talked to so many lenders. Like, you got to think about it. I don't qualify for their program right now, but when I have more credit history, if I ever want to invest in a place with a higher population, if I ever want to do this, if I ever want to do that, I have all these great connections now that I can leverage. So that was probably, and also I got the experience of like, okay, how do I find somebody to lend me money, even with low credit, even with all this stuff, you know, everything's against me. I'm only 18 years old. I've been 18 for about a year now. I'm about to turn 19 next week, but I don't have the best credit history, so it was really difficult. But you know, that just taught me that all you got to do is just keep hammering. Like, everybody's saying no, I just called the next guy, and I eventually talked to some brokers, and I have way better connections now. But that deal fell through. Super bummed out. I found another deal probably about 40 minutes away from me that seemed pretty good on paper. I think it was like $30,000 down to profit like $250, $300 a month ish, and I pursued this property. We actually submitted an offer, and we got the offer accepted. But the bad thing about the deal was there was an undisclosed expense that the water bill was something like $400 a month, which I think I budgeted about $150. So it didn't work, and if I bought that property, then I wouldn't be making any money on it. It was only a duplex, you know, it wasn't that good. And I'm glad that I backed out because I felt really pressured to buy it because I submitted this offer and I told my agent, I'm like, dude, look, I don't think this is gonna work. And he understood, thank God, and we were back to the pavements, back out there looking at properties. And I'm super happy that this happened because I basically told him, look, dude, we're gonna get a property under contract in 1 week from now. Like next weekend, we'll have a deal under contract and we'll be talking to lenders and the closing lawyers trying to get this deal put together. So I went to the MLS, told him send me a list of every single multifamily within like a 40-mile radius, I think I told him. And he did that, and I basically sat there for I think 8 hours straight, and I looked through 200 listings of homes, picked out the ones that met my criteria, which I'll make videos on this in the future, depending on how this one does. But I made a little bit of criteria for what I wanted to look at, and out of those 200, I think I found like 30 that I wanted to run numbers on. So I sat there and ran numbers on every single one of those 30 properties that I picked out, and I think out of those 30, I think there were 6 that were actually even worth going out to look at. Just mainly because most of them didn't make enough money or there were better returns out there or whatever the reason is. And one of those properties was the one that we ended up getting under contract. But literally, I was looking through the listings on Saturday, and by Monday, I had like 4 showings set up. So we went out, drove 40 minutes away, went to see every single one of these properties. The ones before the one that I ended up purchasing, one of them, the property taxes were way too high. The other one, we didn't even feel comfortable getting out of the car. That's how bad the neighborhood was. We just we looked around and we're like, dude, we're not getting, let's get the hell out of here. This is not good. But the third one, I think it was the third or fourth one that we looked at that day, just totally stood out to us. It was a home built in, I think, 1880s, so really, really old home. And we were kind of just walking around it, looking at the foundation, looking at the sturdiness, the paintwork, talking to the tenants. And this thing was just in great shape, guys. Like the previous owner, you could tell, really took care of it. Like it wasn't a slum at all. The neighborhood, I would say, is like somewhere between a C and a B neighborhood. Like it's definitely not the best, but it's not the worst either. Like I would live there if I had to. And still feel pretty comfortable, walking around at night and doing that sort of stuff. So good neighborhood, really nice building. The tenants were paying great rents. I ran the numbers. The property numbers were looking great. So we went there and I was like, dude, we're submitting an offer on this today. Typed up the offer, got everything signed, and sent it to them. So this was the third offer I think I submitted on a property. The previous 2 fell through. And they accepted it. So they actually counter offered we offered them $199,000. It's a 3-unit building. So there's 2 tenants currently living there, and then one of the units is vacant and needs to be renovated. So offered them $199,000. The listing was $230,000, and they counter offered with $210,000, and then we counter offered that with $207,000. So, at the end of it, I think I was all in about $70,000 on paper, for the down payment, all the renovations, the closing costs, basically everything associated with it, which was pretty accurate, I would say, after having the property for a couple weeks. I did put about $70,000 into the property so far, but we'll get a video on the specific numbers in the future. So we got a number that we agreed with, and I called the inspector, which I for sure getting a home inspection because I have no idea what I'm doing with this type of stuff. And thank God that my agent said, please get a septic inspection. Thank God that he said this, because if he didn't, it would have costed me a lot of money. So I went to the inspections, and it was really, really valuable to kind of walk around the home with the home inspector and see the types of stuff that he was looking at and observing and writing down and taking pictures of. Super valuable for me just to learn what he was doing. But the following day, I think it was, that's when I got the septic inspection, and that is when the bad news came in. The septic inspector basically said that the septic system was not up to code and the entire thing needed to be replaced. which is not good. If you don't know, septic systems are a $20,000 to $30,000 repair if you have to replace the whole thing. So now we're put in a situation where, you know, we either have to back out of the deal, or we can ask for the repairs and cross our fingers and hope that they're willing to do them so that we don't have to back out, which is what we did. So we typed up it's called like a request to repair, which is basically, we'll still buy the property, but you have to fix these 3 things. I think we mentioned like get the furnace serviced. We said put a fence in because there's like a little wall thing. And we also said get the septic replaced and up to code, which thank God we did this. Surprisingly, they wrote back saying that they were willing to do it up to code and get it signed off by a sanitarian. So this was awesome. Like, this was the best news that I ever heard, you know, especially after having 2 deals fall through. You really start to question in your mind, like, am I actually really going to be able to, you know, source a really good deal out here when it seems like everything is against you? But they were willing to do it, and, you know, so they started the process on doing it, and I drove by a couple times, and they ripped up the whole backyard, and they're putting this massive tank in there. It was so cool to see and experience, but it pushed the closing date back about a month and a half, because the previous owner wanted to do it all himself. I think he said it costed him like $10,000 in materials only. So if you were to go hire a contractor, you would be paying anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000 because you're paying for the materials and you're paying for their time. So he was doing it himself, so he was able to save himself a little bit of money, probably like 10, 15 grand. He still had to pay for the materials, but this is about the time when we were talking to the lawyer about closing, and we basically told them, like, look, we want to close a week earlier, and the closing lawyer was on board with that. He was willing to do it all for us. That's, you know, leading up to this point, we found the property, we put in the offer, we made the request to repairs, you know, I did the inspections and everything, which, by the way, the home inspection went perfect. Like, there absolutely nothing wrong with the building itself. It was mainly just the septic system that was a little bit messed up and needed to be re-brought up to code, which it was working fine just before, but it wasn't up to code, right? So if I left it like that, I could have gotten into some legal trouble, so we had to fix it. In the meantime, you know, while he was fixing up the septic system, I was talking to a couple different lenders. The main issue that I had was my current lender, he was willing to lend on everything, right? Like, these loans are no income verification, no credit history required, you know, just really sketchy loans with high interest rates. I was looking at between 7 on a good note and 9% on a bad note for an interest rate, which is insanely high for the housing market right now. But I was about to take it, but my buddy, my agent, which his name is Marco Epifani, or I'm gonna tag him on my Instagram, and, you know, I'm always hanging out with him. He's a really great agent, but he basically had an open house, just random open house. He was trying to sell somebody else's home, and I said, you know what, why don't I go there? Nothing bad could happen out of it. Maybe I'll meet somebody cool, or if not, I'll just spend some time with Marco and talk about this property and, you know, what we're gonna do with it. So went to the open house, and, you know, by God's blessing, which I'm not even a religious man, but, you know, it kind of seems like just puzzle pieces just come together. There was actually a lender there, and me and him got to talking, and he said, dude, I swear to you, I can get you approved on a loan for your current property that you have under contract. And I was like, dude, please tell me that this guy is not lying. Because if you don't know, lenders, every single lender will tell you that they can get you everything plus some. So they all lie, and then you actually go through the application and they're like, oh, just kidding, you don't have enough credit history, some bullshit like that. But this guy actually came out, and his name was Ed, and he ran my pre-approval, and he was perfectly fine with giving me a conventional loan with a 5.625 interest rate, which saves me, you know, if I went with the other guy and got the 7% interest rate versus a 5.6% interest rate, it's somewhere between $100 and $200 per month extra that I would be paying for my mortgage. So just by going to this open house and putting myself out there into the world, I was able to save or make an extra $100 to $200 per month just by meeting a better lender, right? A 30-year fixed rate mortgage, conventional, 100% legit, no cosigner on my end. It's all based on my credit and everything. So super blessed that this guy Ed came through and he actually stuck to his word. I'm actually trying to work with him on a second property now, but we'll get into that in future videos again. So closing day comes. So closing day is basically where everything is supposed to be finished. Everything is, you know, you got the closing papers done, you got the down payment check, like the actual check with the down payment on it. And this was exciting. So it turns out he was not done with the septic system on closing day. So he was actually still working on it. So me and my agent went to the closing office. We signed all the papers, you know, to purchase the property. Probably like a stack of papers this big, really simple stuff. You know, I gave up my check for the down payment, and you know, we found out that he wasn't done with the septic system yet, so he couldn't close yet. So what did me and my agent do? We hopped in the car and drove there and watched the progress. And right when we got there, the previous owner was sitting there on his tractor dumping dirt into the big hole. You know, he was just saying like, dude, we're finishing up, we're just waiting on the sanitarian, which that's the guy that comes and says, oh, it's up to code. So super blessed. We got the call from the closing lawyer as we arrived, and he basically said, the sanitarian papers came in, you guys are good to go get the keys. So we were already at the property. This was super surreal to me. The owner was, you know, cleaning up the mess that he made when he was installing the septic system. And my agent, you know, he pushed me over into the third unit, and he's like, look bro, open the drawer. And I opened the drawer, and there were keys in there. And I actually took a video while I was getting the keys, or I took some sort of video, and I'll play it actually right now. Okay, so we just closed on the property. I got the keys right here. There's a letter from Marco, he's filming right now. But first rental property, I'm sure this will go down in history as one of many. But I'm gonna read this, I'll read it out loud. Congrats on closing your first deal. Me and my friend were talking about you just the other day, about your pin day story, which is back when I used to sell pins, which I put on my IG, yeah. He said, I'm gonna be incredibly successful in this new venture of buying real estate, right? And I've done all the right things. You found this deal by yourself, ran the numbers, and decided on your own. I'm grateful for the friendship, and I feel blessed that you chose me to represent you. The gift is something I think you will appreciate. I'm happy I can start your collection of real estate and luxury watches. What are you going at? This is a timepiece made by Belova, which I fucking love Belova, right? That first watch that I told you I bought was a Belova. You know, they're in my heart. The screen is made of sapphire, which is good. The band materials, or the band matches your car, so it's blue. And the watch is a forever watch. It does not need batteries. It is an automatic movement. Right? That's fucking sick, man. It was the last one in the store. I hope you like it. If you want to go fast by yourself, or hold on. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, pick some good company. That's good. That's interesting. Is one of my favorite quotes. I hope we will go far together. Sincerely, Marco Epifani. At what agency?
eXp Realty.
eXp Realty. So thanks, bro. So yes, that was me reading a basically like congratulations letter from my agent, and he was basically just congratulating me for buying my first property and choosing him to buy the deal. And he actually bought me a watch as a congratulations gift, which I thought was really good. I'll play that clip now. I can't wait to. Where's the watch?
It's right there.
Oh shit! I didn't even see it. All right, let's see. You can bring this in close if you want. This is actually crazy. We went through a lot of shit to get this deal together today. Trust me. A lot of shit. See below it, this is their signature box here. Oh, wow. I've actually seen this watch before, yeah? Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Look at that clasp. I love that style of clasp. I love it. See, take a look. So yes, this is the watch. Let me focus on it. Let me see if it'll focus. So very beautiful piece. Thank you, Marco, for this gift, and this was a great journey to buying my first rental property. Basically what I've been doing is just renovating it, getting the unit ready to be rented, but some crazy stories have been happening, you know, in the process of buying my first rental property, and then after closing. You know, it's been about 2 or 3 weeks now, so you know, I've been doing renovations. I've been, you know, building some connections with people that fix certain things like the plumbing or this, that, got some oil, you know, just stupid stuff. But new videos coming in the future. I hope you guys like this story of how I bought my first rental property. If you want me to make more videos on this subject, please leave a comment, because I think that you guys might not only be here for, you know, e-commerce advice. I think it's really, really important that once you start making money, you start saving it so that you can make these smart investments. And I'll be showing some numbers to really motivate you guys to actually put money away for this type of stuff, because it is crazy. The amount of money that you can put into real estate and then take out over time is insane, and that's why I'm super motivated to do this. But I hope that you liked this video and got some sort of value out of it. It was fun telling this story, but this is Noah Brewer, and I'm out. Peace.